Well, it's kind of hard to see in this slide. The next slide will show it better. See the burn marks here? This is the original parapet for the Clark and Seton Mercantile. And
What is a parapet?
oh, it's the top edge of the wall. So this is from when it was a first single-story building, and they had the fire. So all these bricks are burned, and this was what was left. So when Charlie Gruber built the second floor on, this is all the new brickwork on top of the old. So that tells us that there was a building there before the Union that was built on top of. So the window arches on the first floor of the Clark and Seton all have these iron supports. Next, please. And this is the back also iron supports for those. So it was a different mason who did this. I actually like these better, but when we get to the second story that Charlie put on, there is no iron underneath these. And I had to stuff a lot of concrete up into those arches to make them sound again. Well, a couple of the arches, the mortar had melted out so much that the only thing that was holding them up was gravity, and that arch, they kind of wobbled when you poked them. So, stuffed a lot of mortar in there and then put windows in, and that's what's holding them up now. And I hope it lasts as long as we do. This is a signature that was done by, well, we think it's, what, J.C. Gruber?
Yeah, I think it's John Gruber.
John Gruber,
Yes,
and it says Dayton, Nevada, somewhere. We had somebody with an infrared camera and Photoshop study this for us, and that's what he said it was.
Yeah, but you said it was being done with a carbide lamp.
Yeah, you know what a miner's carbide lamp is? It mixes water with calcium carbide, and that makes a settling gas, and you have this smoky little bright white flame out of the front of your lamp. Well, it's very smoky, and you can take the soot and you can write your name with it. So if you're in a cave or a mine and you see this this black inscription to somebody's name, it's probably a carbide lamp. Now, Charlie was, he originally owned the Gruber Hotel across the street, and it burned down. So he was very conscious about fires, and that's why he had the cistern in the backyard. Also, this is the roof. Now, when we peel back the roof, this is the asphalt roofing, but underneath that was a layer of soldered tin, and underneath that is mortar and bricks. So that all, that was creating an amazing amount of weight on the roof. And the roof was holding it just fine. Of course, our engineer said, oh, you got to remove all that stuff. Engineers are no fun. So we ended up having to pay a couple extra $1,000 to have that stuff removed. And so inside, this is in the back room, the green room. We pulled up the linoleum floor, and underneath it, we found newspapers. And this is the 1925 San Francisco Examiner. We also found newspapers that are the Christian Science Monitor. I remember finding some of those. But that's what they put underneath your flooring as an insulator or a buffer or whatever. Now this is interesting. When we were cutting the saloon floor, we had to remove out the entire downstairs floor because it was so soaked with cat urine that 2 inches thick of planks, and it soaked all the way through to the basement. And it wasn't level, and there were rotten spots, and it's like, okay, well, I didn't want to do it, but we did it anyway. But this right here, you'll notice how the boards are thick here, and then they get real thin. This is where the bar was. So the thick boards were under the bar where they didn't wear it. But in front of the bar, where everybody's got their spurs on and their boots, they're just wearing it away. And that's how we figured out, or we confirmed where the bar was supposed to go. There's a couple of things that we found when scraping paint. I was trying to recycle some window frames, and this is Charlie Gruber's signature. And I found a couple of those after scraping the paint off, and luckily the pencil holds onto the wood after the paint gets scraped off. That was interesting because it looked like he may have gone to the lumber yard and just wrote his name on every window he wanted to reserve them. Okay, then I'm going to put my name on it, put it in the wagon. So that was there. And then the double doors, we have double doors that go from the saloon to what's currently the kitchen. Well, the kitchen was originally a dining room. And when I was scraping the paint off, I found this on one of the doors. That says room on it. And then ostensibly the other door said dining. It was very hard to catch it as scraping and sanding without removing it completely. Well, what I'm going to do is eventually I want to get a sign painter to duplicate that style and write dining room back on the door. This was a basement find. This little cabinet that they made, the address on here, you can see the next slide. That's the Mary Melinda Company. She sold Charlie Gruber the original Gruber Hotel that was across the street. And that hotel across the street was the wooden one that burned down. That is now where the Tap House parking lot is and where the Quillicy building was. So that was just really wild to find that in the basement, because well, I think that's probably a package number, but it was from the 1860s. It's great. Stuff we found, lots of marbles, a lot of marbles at the base of the basement stairs, because I think what happened is kids would be playing marbles in the saloon and one would go down the stairs and they, I'm not going there. It's dark down there. This is a brass wedding band. We found about 4 of them, I think, and this is probably the best one. They were so thin, and this soil is so alkaline that a thin brass wedding band just crumbles. We also found, and I'm sad to say I didn't get a picture of it, but in the basement we found one pack rat's nest that had a cloisonne ring with Chinese calligraphy on it. It had there was also a really fancy marble and a $5 gold coin. That pack rat had good taste. Then a plethora of hardware and stuff that we can reuse some of this, and some of it's just in buckets in the shop. This is the parlor stove from upstairs, and sad to say it's in the shed because the firebox was cracked on it. It's a coal stove, so I didn't really feel like burning coal. And all the glittery parts, the finial and any chrome pieces had been stolen off of it years ago. So I don't know what to do with it. Lots and lots of wallpaper. How many types of wallpaper?
I think it was like 20 or 21 different patterns of wallpaper in there.
These were some of the best samples.
Some of them all on the same wall.
Yeah. Yes.
My favorite is the Howdy Doody, and I still have,
Oh, that is Howdy
it's Howdy Doody, and I still have the panel that has the Howdy Doody, because I want to make a shadow box, because I have a bunch of Howdy Doody puppets.
Yes.
And that would be really cool.
That is awesome. It is circus.
So this piece is really interesting. It is a soda bottle top with the stopper still in it. And I have a feeling, it was in the basement, and I have a feeling it has something to do with the burn marks in the ceiling. There was an 1890s newspaper article about somebody sitting in the saloon, and there was an explosion in the basement strong enough to knock the guy out of his chair. Now, the burn marks are still in the basement, and I think that they had a still going down there. Because what I found down there was an axe handle that had a wire bail on it so it could hang on the side of a barrel, and the axe handle was stained with red wine. So they're probably making their own brandy. Then we had to choose colors, and we had to make the historical commission up in Virginia City happy. So we had this facade. What do we do with it? Well, this is the original colors, and remember I talked about the penciling? That's it right there. When we took those wooden pilasters off the front, the original color from 1870 was behind it. Another thing we found was the geodetic survey marker that was hidden by one of the pilasters, and the USGS, that historically they were looking for it in like 1915. They couldn't find it. So you will find another marker that's placed on the bridge by the firehouse to replace this one that they couldn't find. So we called up the USGS and told them about this and sent them the picture, and they said, Oh, good for you. But it's still there, you can see it. So these are rocks that we pulled out of the yard. These are local, I don't know what they are, but they're local colored rocks, and they're like jaspers or something like that.
It's Jasper. Is it Jasper?
It could be jasper,
Yeah,
yeah.
because we have them all over our yard.
So that's where we got some of the inspiration for our color. And that's what it'll eventually look like when we get around to finishing all the paint. And the balcony I'm going to refurb, and I don't want to rebuild the balcony because of the engineer and the permits come in, and that gets expensive. We paid $4,000 for a new design for rebuilding the balcony, and the design is completely unbuildable. And they said, "Oh, you want a buildable one? You give us some more money."
It used to keep me inspired. I'd be working all day and I'd come home and Glen would actually make all these CAD drawings and put little people in them like it was us. And it gave me hope. And that's what it'll look like someday.
Well, it's also a good way to illustrate a concept.
Yes.
A lot of people cannot look at a two-dimensional drawing and figure out what I'm talking about, but this illustrates what I'm talking about. Oh, we did have to remove any idea of using this side. It was up there originally, but we kept on having people banging on the door looking for booze. So I was like, okay, we'll remove that. So this was the expensive part. I think we bought the place for $125,000, and the first thing that we had to do was drop $150,000 into the seismic retrofit. This is a mortar test where they cut out one brick, and then they use this hydraulic ram here that will measure how much pressure it takes to get this brick to shift. And luckily we passed with hopefully flying colors. We still had to do a lot of retrofit though, but at least the existing mortar was in most places good enough to handle the loads. This is the design we paid quite a bit of money for, and it shows all these bolts along there. Each of these bolts are epoxy to get all the floors connected to the walls really firmly. And then there's steel strapping front to back.
We're supposed to withstand the 6.0 earthquake.
Frankly, if we have an earthquake like that, it's probably going to damage the hotel so much that I'd really like to have the hotel just pancake me, so I don't have to worry about repairs. So this was the first concrete pour. It was done by wheelbarrow, and that's, remember those footings that I showed with the scrap lumber stuffed in? Well, they improved the bottom of the footing with rebar and concrete, and then put in strong footings.
Okay.
This is all the blocking. They wanted to make these floors so the building would not twist. So all this cross blocking, these blocks are all brand new, and then they have steel straps from the front of the building all the way to the back. Keeps it hopefully square. Now for the back and the front walls, we put in enough rebar on the inside to build a bridge. The contractor was laughing about how much the engineer put in here. There it is. Then once the rebar was in there, we had the pros spray in concrete, just like it's just like
Swimming pool.
yeah, exactly. And then they troweled it smooth. And in some places, they just put a skim coat of plaster on it, so it's still a concrete wall. So if you have a teenage kid who has a temper tantrum and selects the wall, they're going to be in a world of hurt. So after all that, what do we have? A big brick box. Well, on the outside, we had our mason go through, and he is carefully repointing all these bricks. He worked for months doing this, chipping out all the loose mortar and refilling it with fresh. And then I came back, and the windowsills, these windowsills, the water had been hitting the windowsills for years, and it eroded out. So what I did was went and practiced my masonry skills and replaced all that stuff. And the mortar mix that I use, you have to use a soft mortar with these soft bricks. It has to be similar to the lime and sand. So what I did was lime and sand with like a little shot of Portland cement, the modern stuff, just to make it more waterproof so it wouldn't melt away like the old stuff. And that's what it looked like. You can see that the corner has been repaired here. We're in much better shape. Still a little bit ugly, but it still has a ways to go.
Why was there a crate at the window on the left, right there?
Well, the building in the added-on building in the back was not original. It was added on later, and they didn't want a window between the back guest room here and the next guest room in the next building, so they plugged it up. And then they cut another window around here on this side.
That's where the laundry room is now, right?
Yeah.
So there's no window there,
No, there's no window there.
just on the side of the laundry.
Yeah, the mason wanted me, oh, you can open that up and have another window. I was like, well, first of all, it's the laundry room. And second of all, those windows are $1,000 a piece. I saved a lot of money by not opening that window.
Okay, so that window existed before the next building was built against?
That is correct.
Okay.
So here we are. The subfloor, as I mentioned, was totally catified. And so we ripped it all up. And there's some neat crowbars just for that. There's one that's called a deck ripper. And you balance it over the timber in the floor, and it's got two big teeth, and you put it back at 6 feet long, pops that board right up. Never thought of something like that. That was great to have. And then we just put down 5/8 plywood, and
This was before we put all the walls back.
oh yeah, and this is, we have got big holes in the floor. This is when the tax assessor showed up. Brand new young person, invited herself into the hotel. So I find this stranger wandering around in high heels, stepping from board to board. It's like, can I help you? And she says, oh yes, I'm the tax assessor. I'm going to decide how much I'm going to tax you. It's like, first of all, you're trespassing. Second of all, this is not a safe place to be in heels. So, well, the floor was open. That was a good thing to have the floor open because we could start doing all the plumbing and getting that in place. Made it a lot easier. That was the nice thing about stripping down the walls and having this floor up, is access to everything. Putting in the electrical was really easy. Plumbing was easy. And upstairs, every bathroom I've ever seen with the floor removed has rotten timbers. So this one not only had rotten timbers, but this is where the bathtub was. And the plumber had cut some significant chunks of wood out of the timbers. It's like, oh, geez. So I put in timbers on either side and nailed them in there, so I got a lot more strength out of it. Now, all the floors upstairs had gotten wet from the leaky roof, and the problem is they cut, so they had high spots. And here I am using the belt sander, grinding down all the high spots, and I had to use galvanized ring shank nails to nail them down as much as I could, but still the floor was not usable. I had to use it as a subfloor. And for our real flooring, we got a good deal. Looked around, there was a mill shop in like either Indiana or Illinois who had a canceled contract for all this wood. And they gave us a really good deal. So they shipped it out here. And since I was doing it myself, I went out and bought the best tool I could get. This is a floor nailer. It hooks over the edge of the floor and then does a diagonal nail, so the nails don't show. It is air compressor.
So you use the air compressor that was in the old sleeping bag?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, love it, full circle.
So
Those chairs.
these are our rocket chairs. We take them to rocket launches, and what's nice is they recline, so you can watch the rocket without craning your neck. But this is what the floor looked like after it's all nailed in. It was quite a job, but very enjoyable to do. And my boots afterwards.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, when you're on your hands and knees, that's what ends up. I went through like 3 or 4 pairs of boots. And I just go to the thrift store and buy another pair of boots and chuck them in a couple of months. So the neat thing about doing it yourself is you can buy some of the best tools, because you can either get a contractor to do it for an astronomical amount of money, or you can spend just quite a bit of money on a great tool, and then you get to keep the tool. So this tile saw has done all our tile floors, and now it's being used to saw rocks open because we want to collect rocks. Works just the same. So this is the bathroom floor. This actually was probably not the wisest floor to do as the first one. Those tiles are a pain in the neck. The bigger the tile, the easier. These are in the kitchen. These are hand-painted Mexican tiles, which we over-ordered, so we got a whole extra case of them in the basement at $5 a piece. So, where does my budget go? And this was the hearth for the wood stove. And we had been looking for the right stuff, and I bought slate for it, but then I found out that the nosing around to dress up the slate was going to be so expensive that it was just unrealistic. So we returned the slate, and the tile guy had a crate full of this stuff, inch thick. These are like patio tiles, and matching thin 1/4-inch travertine. And they all work great, and he sold me the entire crate for $60. Wow. So, and we went into, I had to fix just about every door in the place. The thing about that, it had been used somewhere after 2000, it had been used as a flop house and a drug house, and the DEA kicked down just about every door. So almost every door had damage. And I was using putty and glue and all sorts of whatever I could do to get that door back together. And they came out really well. And since they're paint graded, all my repairs disappear. One of the things that really works well for repairing dents and dingles and huge gouges is automotive Bondo. The body filler, that works great. And we got our windows in. These are all new windows. The Historic Commission said I had to use both wood inside and outside windows, which I didn't like having wood on the outside because new wood is nowhere near as strong as old growth timber from 1870. The windows that we had taken out had been there for 100 years before they started falling apart. They hadn't been painted since the 50s, and that's why they were trashed. But these windows are much more fragile. And one of the problems that I had is they came pre-primed. Well, the primer that the factory put on there was such a cheap stuff. I think it was just maybe interior house paint. So now after I painted them all with our expensive exterior paint, 3 years later, they're all peeling and I have to take them all down and paint them again. So that's annoying. Kitchen, this is just Home Depot. We went and did upgraded to no particle board. It's all real plywood and solid lumber, and it turned out really well. And then over here we augmented. I did the top cabinets. The factory wanted $1,000 to put glass in those doors. I was like, "Are you crazy?" So an architectural office went out of business, and we got for free a whole bunch of the framed pictures of their work. So I took all the picture frame glass, cut it to the right size, and bought a packet of clips for $8. And that's all picture frame glass. So these, we got stuff from all over, a lot of Nevada, a lot of California. These are from Saratoga, California. Somebody had these in their garage and they were going to throw them away. And it's like, that's old growth redwood. So we drove down there and picked it all up, and that's going to end up being the back bar. These came from Sutter Creek, I think. Yeah, we went to a garage sale and we're completely unimpressed with what they had. And the guy said, "Well, what do you need?" And I said, "I need antique doors." And he says, "Oh, follow me." Took me out to his barn and he had just what I needed.
It's a cool Sutter Creek, Dayton.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all gold rush.
Yeah.
So this was our compromise. This was the original stove in the saloon. In that poor stove, just like the upstairs stove, all the chrome pieces have been stolen. And the firebox is broken out. It's split in the back, so I can't use it. And of course, the insurance company wouldn't like it anyway. So this is a felon stove. These are actually made in Mound House. And they're UL listed. It's like, yay! And the insurance company loves UL listing. So the interesting thing about these is the original ones that they started making these back in the 40s, the body of them are actually the bodies from power transformers on your power poles. That's what they use. They clean out the transformer part and just use the outside casing. And these originally were truck rims that they would chrome. Now, this new one is all parts made for it, but the story is still great. This is a collection of stuff that I've been collecting. Before we found the hotel, I'd been wanting to build a house on my own and have it look vintage. Well, it didn't work out that way, so I had all this stuff. And a lot of it, when you get old hardware, a lot of it comes with paint on it. And this is what we did. An $8 crock pot from Goodwill, and you fill it with water, a little bit of detergent, dishwashing detergent, and throw the stuff in there and boil it for a couple of days, and the paint falls right off. Much better than using paint stripper. Paint stripper is toxic and nasty. This vanity, this is in the upstairs bathroom. We bought this. This was a buffet that we bought from somebody up in Lake Tahoe. And when we got it home, looking at the top of the cabinet and the middle piece and the base, and it's like, this is not all the same piece of furniture. What I think, oh, well, that gives me permission to go abuse it. So I chucked the top part, put a granite top on it, and that's our bathroom vanity now. Now we just bought this. Out on Arrowhead Drive, there was a guy who had the airplane crashed in his garage, and he had the flying saucer in his place.
He just died?
Yeah,
We went to his estate sale.
I didn't see the estate sale, I saw nothing left there.
Well, this was over his fireplace, and they wanted $150 for it. It's like, oh, bring it on, bring it on.
Are you kidding?
So I think I'll probably use that for the back bar.
There might be that ugly woman on the horse.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking about that piece.
So this bathroom, this is the downstairs bathroom. The cabinet, the vanity I made from some of that paneling that I showed you in the earlier slide. But all this stuff I brought from California, the little shadow box, the Dean Bottle collection, the Model A Ford mirror.
Yes.
That's pretty cool. Those lighting fixtures are actually, these are modern ones, but they're made in old style. They were probably incredibly expensive originally, but I bought them for like $5 a piece, and it's like, that's the way to do it.
He is the king of Craigslist.
Oh my God.
Craigslist is the bomb.
But we decorated, what do you call it?
Ghost Town Revival.
Yes.
What's nice about that is if my paint is not perfect and if my millwork is not exactly straight, well, most of ghost towns are amateur stuff anyway, so it actually works much better that way. And also, High Victorian is really pretty. We're low Victorian. We're working man's Victorian.
Yeah.
And what's nice is it's very much more comfortable. I've been in Victorian houses where it's like, well, I don't want to sit down.
Yeah.
It's too perfect. Ours, you can flop, which is something I really appreciate. So the lighting, I had some nice industrial milk glass fixtures that we had 8 matching, and I thought, how perfect for the saloon. Katie saw with the bucket of blood and said, we need those.
Yeah.
So we searched all over, and next slide, please. We found 6 of these. Well, actually, we got 2 more upstairs, so 8 of them. And we went all over Nevada and California. We made trips to California to pick things up. And then all over
all of them are pretty shaggy, but Glen has the talent of restoration and rewiring, was able to make them all look beautiful. We just sourced out, half of them didn't have crystals, and just sourcing crystals and things like that. It was all done with a very low budget.
Yeah, which is nice. Low budget is the thing, or the word of the day.
They're absolutely gorgeous.
Well, they look like you're swimming in a bunch of jellyfish. This actually is from Adele's. We went to their fire sale, and we bought a couple of light fixtures and a bunch of furniture and things like that. And so this is in our stairwell. It's kind of, makes me think of Liberace.
Yeah.
And so these were things that I had restored before and brought them out from California with me. This was actually, I got it at a flea market in Barstow, of all places. And it was all rusty, and it had sagebrush growing inside of it. And I took it apart and wired all the rust off, and the little rough and stone polish, and it looks fantastic. And that's now in our upstairs bedroom. I'll never light it. It'll probably blow the house up. It's a gas stove.
Yeah.
And then this light fixture, sorry, she's getting bored.
Not bored, I'm looking at time.
Oh, okay. If anybody else is getting bored, you can throw things at me. So this is actually 3 different light fixtures all put together and made it into a big chandelier. They were little hallway light fixtures that I can reuse the parts in. When I restore a lamp, I do not like buying complete lamps. I like buying ones that are wrecks, and so I can take the parts and design what I want. So that's what this is. Next. Now this gets into what Katie's doing for us. We have lots of glass hiding out in the back room, and some of it's new, some of it's estate sale finds, which is really great because you can get some of the antique glass you just can't reproduce anymore. So this is our upstairs bathroom transom. We have, what, 13 transoms? 14 transoms.
14 transoms.
And each one's going to be different.
I've done 4 upstairs so far,
Mm-hmm.
and now I'm working on the saloon.
This one's a 2 by 5 foot transom above the double doors in the saloon. And that's going to be gorgeous when it's done.
Wow.
How am I doing on time?
Well, you're in the befores and afters, and this is where it gets exciting. And so
Okay.
we're doing.
So this is, it's progressing. You can see that we made a marked difference between what it used to be and what it is now. There's the Odeon Express yard. And we did the papers, and we plugged the hot tub in the middle. And then my patio light, actually, it's hard to see, but this is one of those railroad switch stands. And that's activated from a switch inside. You can turn that on. Our kitchen, that took a lot of imagination to get from before and after. Oh, and this is one of Katie's first transoms.
That's one of the plates there, right?
Yeah, those are little depression glass cake plates.
Yeah.
Perfect for the kitchen. Saloon has changed quite a bit. You can see the multiple types of wallpaper that was here. This is a beautiful pine cone print that I wish we could have saved, but it was stuck to the wall, so not much I could do.
What's cool about this picture is it shows, because he had to completely open up the staircase and turn it, so it wouldn't like run into the wall. But there's a door, and so we were missing a window, and now we have 3 windows in front.
Yeah, this window was completely obscured.
Yeah.
So, interesting story about this door. This is one of our first ghostly encounters. That we were watching TV upstairs, we were watching Zach Baggins on Ghost Adventures, and Zach was being kind of rude to the ghosts on the TV. That door slammed, and there was a rush of energy that hit Katie in the back, coming up the stairs. Something was pissed off. And the problem with that door slamming is it wasn't there when it slammed. The door was actually leaning up against the wall in my workshop. So
It threw me forward in my chair like that. It was so intense of a rush.
Luckily, they've gotten to like us, so our haunts are all very friendly. This is the other side of the kitchen. All this clothing, I guess this was the thrift store theme.
So that white door is the pantry
Yeah.
in between.
It used to, that white door used to be kind of off over here right next to the bathroom door, and I shifted it. So we'd have a nice wall to put things on, and it worked out pretty well. The back window to the Pony Express yard was all roached out. The brickwork, or the stonework was falling apart. And we had our mason guy, the same guy who did the repointing. He squared out that window. And then to keep the cats in, I put the screen in here. It's just field fencing on one frame. And then bottleneck strands, we were buying those up in Virginia City. And then what we didn't have, we made more out of bottles that we found in the yard. And it looks pretty good.
Yeah, when the sun comes in there, it looks really good. You guys have seen that on
Yeah.
Facebook where I've taken.
Yeah, I know that.
So this is the sad recent history. Remember the depot fire? I was out here, out in front taking this picture. I'm in tears because this is really heart-wrenching for me. And I'm snapping pictures, getting great images, and somebody says, "Did you see the smoke behind the hotel?" Shh. I bolted to the hotel. I put the camera down somewhere, and I'm lacing up the garden hoses because behind the building next to us, his yard is on fire, and it's going right underneath our new RV. And I'm lacing up or hitching up all the garden hoses. The fireman runs by, he says, "You got water?" I say, "Here, take this one." And then I'm looking for my camera. I had no idea where I put it down. It took me another hour to find it. And that scared me. And then this one, ridiculous. They arrested me out at 10:30, and when I'm getting out of the bedroom because somebody's pounding on the door, it's like my upstairs living room, there's an orange glow in there. It's like, did they put in a new sodium vapor street light? Look out the windows. No, the survey office is on fire. And I bolted out. I was smart enough to take my wallet, but I forgot the cell phone and the bottle of whiskey, which I really needed. And I watched it from across the street. And yeah, they knocked it down. They had to knock
What
it
building
down.
was this? Sorry, what building is this?
This was the Fox Hotel.
Right
It
next
was,
to us.
you know, the empty lot that's out to the right of the Union now?
Okay,
That was that.
So straight across, when you got this window, it would have been straight across.
okay.
This was October 13th, last year.
And the fire went right up to your Pony Express.
Right at the Pony Express wall.
So it's interesting, was it, Jill, you were you the one who found the newspaper article on it?
Yes, and I can't find it again.
1880s, there was a similar fire. The building that was before the Fox Hotel, it caught fire, and the fire was traveling east along the block, and the Pony Express will stop that fire as well.
Yeah.
So we're lucky to have that
And you
wall.
can see the scorch marks on the Pony Express where
Yeah, right
the
there.
flames were just like hitting it hard.
That's where the building that was right here was the old Indian motorcycle shop, so it was a tin frame building. So it's an ongoing process. The next things we got to do is I got to finish painting all those windows again, and then I want to rebuild or refurbish this. What I'm going to do is cut down all this railing and put up a new railing eventually that's a more historic looking and more solid. Repaint it so it's yellow, and then I want to put a metal roofing on that deck because we never go out there, and I just want it to be waterproof. Because right now when it rains, it drips down the middle, and you think, oh well, I'm dry.
That rating is not very high, right?
No,
And it
no.
wouldn't be code if you were going to use it, right?
Well, yeah. What I figure I'll get away with is that's the historic height to it.
Yeah.
Since I am just refurbishing it, and I'm not rebuilding it, I don't need a permit, so I'm just going to put it up there. And well, also the other thing is they say the gap has to be no more than 4 inches, like for children sticking their head through. Well, I'm not going to ever have a child up there.
That looks like 10 or 12 inches.
Yeah, and that's not original. The original were actually turned balusters, which I could do on the lathe, but it would take me 10 years.
Right.
We'll refurbish it at night or on a day when nobody's ready.
Well, I can make it prefab, so all the parts are made in the shop space.
Where does historic preservation sort of start and stop? Like, they tell you about, you know, you have to use wood for your windows, but yet for a balcony railing and all that, things have to be, you know, 3.5 inches wide, which would not necessarily be what the historic part was.
So what Bert Boudreau, the commissioner at the time, told me is that building code trumps historic. So, yeah.
But they also only told us, they just cared about our exterior.
Yeah, we could have done anything we wanted with the interior, which that was not our intent. We wanted to keep it as close as possible to the original. We did take a few liberties, but not much. Like upstairs, we have an upstairs living room with our TV, and it's where we hang out. And we did knock out the walls on 2 rooms to make that big open space. And it's all historically documented, so if anybody ever wanted to put it back, all the parts are still there, the doors are still there.
So on historic preservation then, it's more the outside is
Yes.
what they want and could care less about what the inside is.
You could do Danish modern inside.
Well, I'm sure that this light fixture may be a sin because that's, years ago there was a lineman, I collect power and telegraph insulators from the telephone poles. There was a lineman who passed away and I bought his estate. And the deal was I wanted maybe 3 dozen of his insulators and I had to buy the entire lot. 5 pickup truck loads. But I got these groovy light fixtures like this and I thought, how perfect, I'll just bolt it to the front. It looks great, and these are probably from Genoa. They're the right style, so they're probably salvaged from Genoa. And I've got a couple of power insulators that were salvaged from Bodie before it became a park. So I got some historic stuff from that sale.
And did you have to follow on the back side where the windows are? You
Yeah.
said that you had to put in a new window there,
Oh, all the windows are new.
and did you? But they also had to be wood.
Yeah. What I really would have, if I had my brothers, I would have said, oh yeah, I'll put in wood, and then gotten the metal clad ones. Because they're all in the second story, nobody's going to ever tell the difference. Because the only way you know they're metal is if you put your hand on it and go, yeah, that's metal.
Just for a bit.
But now I have an upkeep problem. Especially on the western wall. These windows get cooked in the summer. So, that's the
That's the last.
That's the last.
last one. I can let you go.
Tell me a little bit about your background.
Well, I am a designer of sorts. I got a degree in interior design, which I only used a little bit.